Desde el norte hasta Ponce, con el corazón en la mano, no más corrupción responde. Bailaremos en las plazas, una nueva esperanza. El orgullo nos abraza, por fin la justicia avanza. Levántate Puerto Rico, el cambio está en el aire. Ya no más políticos, hay que hacer un gran alarde. Y hacer un gran alarde. Oh, veo. Gritos se oyen en San Juan, desde el norte hasta Ponce, con el corazón en la mano, no más corrupción responde. Bailaremos en las plazas, una nueva esperanza. El orgullo nos abraza, por fin la justicia avanza. Levántate Puerto Rico.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever and however you hear this, aliens and monsters, boys and girls. This is Coquito Underground. I haven't done this in a while. Last one was Anthony. Great show, great guy. This time, we're going to go back approximately 20 years to a time in my life that I don't really talk about because of trauma and wonder. But the people that I met are the wonder. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, aliens of all and monsters of all ages, welcome to the stage, Di the Yoga Witch.
Hey, you. It has
Yeah.
been a minute, huh?
Yeah, 20 plus years, give or take.
The baby's 21.
Yeah, and then 23. Then I say like that. Oh, Lord,
Yep.
Lord, I'm old.
I know. I don't feel that old, I swear.
No, I
At
don't either.
least mentally most days.
So, how are you this morning, this evening, this afternoon? Ladies and gentlemen, she's broadcasting this all the way from California to Puerto Rico.
Seattle.
So, Seattle. Ooh, wow. Nice. Even's from Seattle. Shout out to them. How are you doing this week?
Overall, doing pretty good. Wet, because it is October in the Pacific Northwest. So,
Yes.
debating building an ark.
Samesies. We're flooding in my town and most of the south of Puerto Rico. So everyone's just getting on a boat or just staying in their cars looking at everything. But it's not about the weather here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about Di the Yoga Witch, the showcase, and everything else. And before we continue, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and everything else. I have a Patreon. Free members get once every 2 weeks some random story about life here in Puerto Rico and crime and other tiers. You look it up. It's not about me. This is about Di. Now, we're going to do a nice little 7 to 10 questionnaires. And everyone down in the comments down below can leave questions. And if they're acceptable by me, we will put them out there. Say it like that. Shout out to everyone's watching. Shout out to everyone that needs to be watching. And shout out to the people that need to subscribe to the channel before we continue. Now, not mine, hers. We're all good on mine. Now, first question coming up on the topic. What is a yoga witch? And may you please explain it.
What a yoga witch is, I personally at least, and anybody who knows witches knows that every witch is different. I became a yoga instructor, and I also have a Patreon.
Yes.
And as I'm setting up my levels, I'm trying to figure out what to offer. I have been a practicing witch since 96.
Nice.
Yep. And I'm setting up the stuff for the Patreon, and tarot is one of my things.
Yeah.
So brain is like, hey, let's offer a 3-card tarot reading at this level, or maybe a pendulum reading.
Mhm.
Okay, that works. Well, at that level, well, why don't we give them a spell a month? You know, I can do that. And then at the next level, it was something else. And then I went, wait a minute. Where'd all the witchy shit come from? Pardon my language.
Of course. No part is necessary. We're already past the 5-minute mark here at YouTube. You can say as many fucks as you want. We're good.
Sweet. That is one thing we share in common. We both swear like the sailors we once were.
Yes, we do.
But so Brain is like, where the fuck is this witchy shit coming from? What the hell? Let's go with it. And then a couple of weeks later, I stumbled across a book that the title of it is Yoga Witch. And I'm like, or yoga, no, it's Yoga for Witches. I take it back and I'm like, guess this is a thing. And I ran with it. And so what I do is I teach yoga and infuse it with my magic.
Okay.
And I can cater a yoga flow to the phase of the moon. I mean, everybody knows sun salutations. There's also a moon salutation. So, and it's so seamlessly blended together, and it just brought the two of the three biggest parts of my life together.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense, and we'll get to certain other questions talking about 96 and beyond that. But to elaborate more on what is a yoga witch, one, did that book sell well? The one that you find?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That was part of it. When I spotted it, it was at like number 5 on the bestseller list.
Wow, nice.
And it still is. And it's not in this room, but I could lay my hands on that book in about 30 seconds.
Okay, that's good.
Because it stays at hand.
Okay. I am currently dating and probably will marry a spiritualist myself. She is a tarot card reader. She's really into spirituality, and she has her own tarot cards, and she always reads my fortunes whenever she wants to, even though if I don't ask sometimes. Shout out to you, Cardala, love you. And I'd love for you guys talk shop about this stuff, because she loves this stuff.
I would love to.
Of course. So the fact of that I love that, and you have to understand this too. That type of book that you saw, that's the top 5 right now, would have not been around in the 96s, 2000s, 2010, maybe even 2014. 2014 was a weird time, but even then, it was a weird time in our lives. It was a transition from, like, we kept saying weird words and shit in movies and media. Now we got to transition into something a little different. But again, I digress. I say I'm glad that books like that are out there to expand the mind and the soul and everything else. I love stuff like that, because without that, really, we don't learn as a society. Yes, we can find everything on our phones. We can find everything on computers. But as you and I grew up the same way, possibly, you grab a book, you read it, it's a part of your soul, and your soul is a part of you. The book it intertwines back and forth. I myself grew up on dragon books and elves and dwarves and aliens and monsters, because there was always a fantasy of always thinking there's always another world ahead of us. Always. But we'll put that out there. Next question on the list. How did you get into yoga? And I remember you being a not so, like, big woman. You were you were really stacked as a woman back in the 2000s. Like, you can punch a wall and get away with it back in those days. How did you get into yoga?
Honestly, it was right around the time that I met you guys. I was pregnant with my middle.
Yes.
And just like with my first, morning sickness was evil.
Yes, it is.
I dealt with hyperemesis gravidarum with all 3 of my pregnancies.
Jesus.
It is the same thing that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, dealt with hers.
Yes.
I feel so sorry for her. But so my ex-mother-in-law, she was my mother-in-law at the time. She was, probably still is, very much into the holistic healing and things like that. So her first thought was, for the morning sickness, okay, let's try chiropractor. That didn't help. And then she was like, well, why don't you try doing yoga? I'm like, okay, sounds cool, sounds fun. I've kind of been interested. So I went out, bought a mat, bought some prenatal DVDs, came home, tried the DVD once, and was so terrified that I was going to hurt myself without someone there to make sure I was in proper alignment and everything. I put the mat away and didn't touch the DVDs again.
Hmm.
So that was pregnant with the one who is now 23.
Hmm.
We moved up here in October of 04.
Mhm.
And while we were up here, the Seattle VA decided to offer mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR.
Okay.
Oh, look it up. It is amazing because one of the biggest reason I was invited to participate is my PTSD.
Mhm.
It is amazing for PTSD. Saved my life. Completely other story. But one part of the MBSR was some very basic yoga. And I kind of was intrigued.
Okay.
Come to find out, one of the other clinics at the VA that I was in offered a weekly yoga class. And I'm like, dude, sign me up. I want to do this. And then before I was even halfway through my first class, I was hooked. And I knew from that moment I was going to teach yoga someday.
Mhm.
It ended up being a 15-year dream, but I managed it.
Nice.
The person who convinced me to not do it back then is no longer with us. And I made the decision, by the time I'm 45, I am going to at the very least be enrolled in yoga teacher training in my first 200 hour.
Okay.
I took my first class in October. I turned 45 the following January. And then on Father's Day of 23, I got my 200-hour certification to teach yoga.
Nice.
Yes. And my instructor was shocked at me because she said that I was consistently one of the best students she had when it came to the tests.
Yes.
And when we did our final, I emailed it back to her and I'm like, I know I blew at least one of these questions. I think two of them, but I'll still pass, right? I got an email back from her half an hour later going, I have no idea what you are talking about. This was a perfect test.
Yahtzee. Nice.
Yeah. So that was me getting into yoga, and oh my, it has been such a life changer. The
I
yoga,
could.
the MBSR, all of it.
Mhm. And I'm glad that the VA are stepping up and actually trying different methods of fixing PTSD. I'm a former. I'm not even former. I have PTSD still to this day, and I've kind of figured it out. Obviously, no one can really figure it out, and I hope one day in our lives we can actually cure PTSD, cure it, not
Yes.
just treat it, cure it.
No, cure it.
Thank
Because
you.
if we can cure PTSD, there are multiple other mental issues that we can actually cure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, my girlfriend and future wife, she has PTSD from other things in her life, but when she sits down with me and I tell her, you want me to talk about my Navy days? Let's talk about my Navy days. She starts crying because she's like, again, you met me during the like fun times and then like all the other times. The things I remember just would make a person wake up sweaty.
I've heard some of the stuff that you lived through.
It was I think it's either the beat downs, the various liquids of things that come out of your body that were thrown at me, or
Yep.
the fact that I had to hide half the time because I was getting like beat all the fucking time. But I digress, and let's try to pivot from my racking freaking PTSD, and let's have some fun for a second by showing one of three segments. Not even segments, one of three showcases.
Okay.
As to remind everybody, You can pause the video, go back, see all the socials, and in the description below, website, YouTube, Patreon, offset guest. Down below, ready to go. Click and see the moon.
Oh,
In
yeah.
the comments, coming in from talking about my beautiful wife, existence. Hi, would love to talk about the idea of other worlds, especially with Halloween just passing and the history behind it. And obviously, which is ironic, Di, the yoga witch, and a guest actually talked about Halloween, the pumpkins and everything else. So go to her channel, baby, and check out that one. That was like yesterday, I think.
Yep.
That was yesterday, exactly.
It was yesterday because yesterday was Samhain and we did the Samhain blog and pod
Exactly.
yesterday.
And baby, this is your wheelhouse. Any questions down below you want to talk about this, just let it out there and let's see what happens. All right. Thank you. Now, on to the third question, which is this is kind of a weird thing to ask, but I wanted to ask it anyway. And here we go.
Oh boy.
When did you find your way to being a witch, or have you always been one? And I put a little broomstick there. That wasn't me. That was autocorrect. Once you put witch,
I love it.
Boom.
Okay. Trying to figure out where to start because my story, finding my way to my craft and my path, involves a man who was a conundrum.
Are we talking
My
about
grandfather.
the ginger?
My grandfather.
Okay. I'm about to say like
He was a submarine line officer in World War II. He was on the USS Wahoo. The USS Richard O'Kane is named for my grandfather's best man, best friend, my mom's godfather.
Nice.
Yes, we have a strong Navy history. So, Grandpa was next to the last person off the Wahoo before she sunk. Because one of his shipmates caught the early symptoms of polio after having survived it himself as a child. And he cornered my grandfather to, dude, you're going to medical, you're getting checked out. And it was. My grandfather was in an iron lung when my mother was born. However, having been medically retired from the Navy, he needed something to do. So he went back to college and became a research chemist.
Okay.
He was in the process of getting his doctoral thesis in research chemistry so that he could be a high school chemistry teacher when he decided to sell that and pivot and go to Episcopal Seminary.
Huh.
Yep.
He was just going from like, I'm going to try this for a little bit. I'm going to try this for a little bit. And I like that because, again, you're trying to find something that you're going to sit down with every night for the rest of your life. You just can't be like, I'm going to try my first thought. You know what? No, because back in those times, you're right. You had so many different options. Like you're retired. You have benefits. They're going to give you whatever the fuck you want. Just pick something. And the guy's like, okay, I'll pick this. Again, like going to the ice cream store. You try one flavor, then you try 17 others. Because eventually you're going to find one that you stick to. So I like that. Continue. So
I grew up knowing him as an Episcopal priest. I knew that he had done these other things, but that was rather abstract. So I grew up with him as my priest. We attended his church. But between then, he was asked if he wanted to be the one to baptize me into the church. And the bishop of the Diocese of Oregon was coming to the church himself to confirm my 3 older brothers who are 8, 10, and 12 years older than me and do something that welcomed my dad in from the Catholics. So my grandpa was like, nope, I'm sitting back. I get to be grandpa this time. I am a unicorn. Bishops do not baptize babies. So I had a very special relationship with Bishop Biliardi.
Okay.
So I was baptized an Episcopalian, and then I struggled through high school. ADHD as fuck.
Yeah, same as alcoholism that hindered me. So yeah, you know how that goes.
Yep. And so college was not not an option at that point. But you know, my mom's parents were both ex-Navy. My dad was ex-Navy. The oldest of my brothers, yeah, he is ex-Navy, and then the youngest of my brothers was active duty.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, she could join the Navy at 17. She's graduating a year early. College isn't an option. Put her to work. Because also in the state of Oregon, if you are under the age of 18, you have to have a work permit for work.
Okay. Understandable.
It takes 6 months to get a work permit. Had I applied for the work permit when I graduated, I would have been 18 by the time I got the work permit, and staying at home for that 6 months was not an option. So into the Navy I went. So I'm bopping around day school, loving life because I'm finally out from under my mother's thumb. And I meet these people who believe in shifters and witches and ghosts and the paranormal and, all of that crazy stuff that happens in San Diego.
Yeah.
But the church
on a
doesn't.
Tuesday. On a fucking random Tuesday next to a coffee shop. Yeah. I remember. I vividly remember that.
NTC San Diego.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I met these people whose beliefs and that stuff really aligned with mine, and I never had with the church on that. And they're talking about this other stuff that they can do and that they've seen, and I'm going, I freaked. So I called my grandpa going, Grandpa, I got a problem. I need to talk. And I spilled my guts, and he's like, okay, sweetheart. You need to live your life for you. Do not live the life that someone else wants you to live. And we both know who I'm talking about there. Mm-hmm. Because if you do, you're going to be miserable. You're going to make everybody around you miserable. You go do what you need to do. And as long as you live a good life, an honest life, and you don't kill somebody without damn good reason, I'll see you on the other side. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, so you're saying it's okay? And he's like, hell yeah, kid, go. I had my grandfather's blessing to walk away from the church. I set my feet onto the path they are on today, and I have not looked back. Yes, I have set foot in a church multiple times. Mm-hmm. Midnight Mass. I love Midnight Mass. The music is amazing. I'm a musician too.
Of course, you are a musician. Yes, that's one of the traits of you that I've known you for.
Yep. Oh God, the number of times you guys would just kind of stare at me because I was singing.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't stare. Well, yeah, I would stare at you because you're like, oh, I'm like, what the? It came out of nowhere. Always out of nowhere. I'm like, other things. But
hello, random ADHD person with multiple personalities. Yeah.
We were all just weird people with our own like eccentrics. Like everyone, like I was messed up, insecure, and I was alky all the time, and I was kind of crazy. And we're not gonna talk about those people.
We made a fun little family.
Yes, in a sense. And I thank you for talking about that, like talking about you talk to your grandpa and open up stuff like that, because I talked to my mother, and my mother's like my best friend because she grew up with me all my life and she knows me inside and out, and I secretly worry. And most of my brothers and sisters have the same feeling too, but they never say it out loud, but we all know it. Like it's like the time when she passes away, it's the time that we break. Like we're all just gonna and we're all scared of that because as a society, we're all like hard and everything else. But our mother was the one that thread us all together. Hate my brothers or love them, no matter what, we are family because of my mom. So the fear of when my mom passes away and all of us are snapped, like, where do we go to talk about that? Who do we talk about that? Like, we would talk to our mom, and all of a sudden, well, that doesn't really work out anymore. So, but before we continue, I want to leave. We have a comment right here. Once again, samesies, thank you for that, and especially to the random singing outburst. My girlfriend loves singing randomly, and I love that. She actually has a beautiful voice. I would give her that, obviously. She also, I'm a little drunk, sorry, Cardala. She also has a little creepy, like the Ring voice, like, I love you, and it freaks me the fuck out. I'm like, stop that! I just wanted some juice. Like,
I have to find my old profile picture for Facebook.
Yeah.
Or it was Facebook. My soul sister called me up or my adopted sister called me up. They had just moved out of my house.
Wow. Okay.
And she calls me up and she's like, change your profile picture now. Why? Two things. Number one, it's the girl from The Ring. And once I finally stopped seeing that, I said hi to Annie, Annie being one of my alters. And she's like, I don't want to look Annie in the face every day. I don't like Annie.
Yeah, as he says that. Oh my God, I know his pain. Warren understands that as well, and I get that. And that's the point of just opening up and talking about it. But let's continue on. We got clips for days later on, ladies and gentlemen. Next question, number 4: how do or don't your family feel about this?
Grandpa was fine.
Yes.
My dad, whatever. I probably could have gone out and committed homicide and the man would not have cared. He'd have patted me on the head and said, good job. That was my dad. Okay. My brothers, I think they ignore it. But the one that I am ignoring and not mentioning was her, my incubator.
I understand the reference. Yeah, I get that.
We were living in the same house, and I have no idea what brought it up, because just out of the blue, she looked at me and goes, did you pick your religion just to piss me off? You know me.
Yeah.
You know me, so you will understand the fact that I did not look at her and ask her if she honestly thought my life revolved around her that much. Yeah. I did manage to bite my tongue.
That's a first. That's a first for you. Like, you like to once you have a platform, you will state your platform, obviously. But it's a mother, so you can go dark and you can go surgical in the pain, but it's just a screaming contest. That's all it is. And you don't need that. And I fight with my son all the time, and I realize he's me at 15. So I understand that whatever he puts out is usually dumbassery, but there's something in it that's like, you need to talk about it. And with your incubator, as you call her, some people just are set in their ways. They're like, this is how I feel. And if you don't like how I feel, then you are dead to me. And even though the world adapts and changes, as do life always, I don't want to, because I want to sit here on this rock as the meteor comes. You know they can go to safety if you go in the cave. I don't care, because I want. In the end, you just remember them, and remember not to be on top of the cliff when the meteor comes.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So I get that.
But so I managed to bite my tongue, and I was like, no. And I told her the story that I told you just a few minutes ago, including the conversation with her dad. And she's like, yeah, he and I had a conversation like that at about the same age. Because, I dabbled in Wicca when I was in college, too, and got in trouble for it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, so you're going to turn my spiritual beliefs into yet another story about you. Yeah, whatever. Yep. So I just let her ramble and babble, and I'm like, this is my path. I know who I am. I know what I am. And the fact that this goes back to the have I always known I was a witch. The fact that I have known things that I had no way of knowing for as long as I can remember. An example that comes right to memory is I have looked at a friend. We met online. And this was the first time we met physically together. And we're chit-chatting, and she says something about her grandmother. And I responded to it with a piece of information that was pertinent, but she had never told me. Mm. And she's like, how the fuck did you know that? And I'm like,
this shit happens.
Then that same grandmother is one of my spirit guides, but that's another story altogether, too.
I to continue before we get to the next. I mean, this is very riveting. A year ago, I did an interview with a spirit medium. I did that. I think about a year ago. No, wait a minute. 2 years ago, 2.5 years on my first channel before I got erased. And speaking of, there was a lot of haters 3 years ago on my channel, so they just surgically came at the right, the perfect storm. It just happened. Shit I was posting out, someone hacked me, hating and reporting, and just blew it all up. It's okay. It happens.
I hate
What
people.
I'm bringing this up is for the spirit medium told me, and it was kind of weird. And he said this in an interview. He said, "Did you have a best friend, but then you don't talk to him anymore because the motherfucker's crazy?" I'm like, "Yeah, I had a best friend a long time ago, back where I was born, but he went a little crazy and then he died in like 2014 in a car crash." He's like, "Yeah, that's your like your guardian angel. That's the spirit guy that's following you around to make sure you don't do anything stupid." I'm like, where the fuck was he between 2018 and 2020? Like that he wasn't around on that end. I was doing stupid shit, but I understand what you mean. Like there's people in my life that guide me and push me into the direction I need to go. Sometimes I see the signs and I can make a choice, but I kind of just rescinded it and like, all right, you guys want me to just like I'm like Domino from Deadpool Part 2. Like I'm just gonna go where Lady Luck takes me, and good or bad, as long as my karma is in a good level, and even then, karma is I call this for me, karma is a bored bitch, because sometimes when you're on the straight and narrow, that will start shit just to get a rile out of you, and I hate that. Like I like just a few days ago, I got hit overhead with a rock. I'm in the middle of a fucking baseball field. How the fuck I got hit over the head with a rock is amazing to me. And to this day, I'm like, I even said it out loud, like, "Karma, what the fuck I did wrong? Because I threw a wrapper on the floor? What the fuck?"
I know that feeling though.
It happens. People just, God, karma's a bitch. Hey, you got another question? Never doubt the gut feeling always come back to bite you. Of course. Now, moving on to the next question. This is a nice one. Did you raise your family with paganism? And again, pagan for me, I'm like, ooh, whatever. I understand what paganism is and how it really believes in life. So, did you raise your family with paganism, or was that just a you thing up to this point?
I have called them my witchlings from day one. My oldest maybe not so much, but again, that's completely different story. But the other two, the Munchkin has been my witchling since they were tiny.
Yeah.
And then Spawn, he's a perfect mix of his parents.
Yeah.
So yes, but again, because of my grandfather and living with his daughter, we would occasionally go to church.
Yeah.
Usually for Christmas and Easter. So I tried to be very careful to allow them to develop their own beliefs while still making sure that they knew mine. So all three of them, in their own ways, follow a similar path as to their mother.
Supplemental question.
Okay.
If one of the three or any of the three change religions, like randomly, like if a teenager wants to change political debates, it happens. How would you feel on that? Like, for example, I'll give a hypothetical, and this is something based on reality because this is something that happens in real life for me. If let's say the middle child says, "I'm agnostic," that believes in Greek mythology, specifically like hardcore Greek mythology, not that fucking Disney shit, like hardcore, like nobody wins in the end, Greek
You grabbed
mythology.
the wrong kid. That would be that one.
And me, because I am agnostic myself. I was baptized double Christian. If you imagine that shit, it was weird. And you know me, after the Navy, I went to Hare Krishna, I went to Catholicism, I went to paganism, I went to every single type of thing there is. And I came to the conclusion, I'm like, God is just a guy that comes in and presses the power button and then walks away and come back the next day and does it again. He doesn't really care about how the machine is made. He just cares that the machine is working. But I have a structure of Greek mythology for me because as much as people want to crap on it, and it's all over the place, it makes some sort of sense. If you break it down to society, 2,000 years later that most religions repeat the same fucking exact thing. Makes sense. And I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, nothing against Mormonism. Nothing against Mormonism. But I can't really believe a guy that goes inside a cabin and comes out with a book and says, hey, I'm sorry. I can't.
There are only 3 religions out there that if my children came to me and said, hey, I'm joining this church, I would say GTFO.
Yeah. Scientology.
Mormons.
Yeah.
I have so many Mormon friends.
Yeah.
I love them all, but they all know how I feel about their cult.
Yeah.
Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh my God. No.
Yes, it's all the same. I have a very dear friend from high school who somehow I did not realize in high school he was Jehovah's Witness. And the Spawn's high school best friend was Jehovah's Witness, and I can't do it.
Now,
and then,
I have a question for you though, before we continue. What, if you know this answer, what religion is the one that you cannot go to a doctor and get a blood transfusion?
Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh, okay. Recommendation for everyone that's watching: check out The Last Vampire on Earth.
Oh my God!
It's a B movie, dude. The whole movie was filmed in sepia. The whole movie is filmed in a sepia tone. This director's like, I'm just gonna put this tone. I like it, but it's a very interesting movie because it delves into Jehovah's Witnesses and a vampire. I'm not gonna spoil a little bit. This vampire met Jesus, and he said he was a cool dude. I was like, he's a cool dude. I met him. He didn't hate me. He wasn't fear from me. He's like, I was like, you know what? That's more believable than anything else.
There's
gonna be some vampires who be like, yeah, I met Jesus. He's pretty cool. You know, just like, I didn't fuck with him. He didn't fuck with me.
Nope.
So I do like that, but we continue on to the question at hand.
There is one other church that if my children told me they were going to attend it, I would no.
Okay.
Scientology.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Scientology, Jehovah's Witnesses, they'll walk up 16 flight of steps to talking about Jesus. I'm like, I'm good. Like, you are very determined. But the say about religion, this a quick second. When I went to the supermarket yesterday, there was this old man. I don't know how old he was, but he was old. He went up and down the aisles and told every single person, Christ is coming. And I thought it was just me, but I followed him, and he went to every single person. Christ is coming. Christ is coming. Christ is coming. I'm like, huh. They're still out there. But the fact that at least you have borders, at least you have barriers. Like you tell your kids, look, these 4 religions, if you jump on it, no. But anything else, fine. And I respect that. Like more like Judaism, Hare Krishna, the Quran, all these other things. And I respect all religions. Again, I respect paganism. I respect Druidism, because they are things. This is the thing that America, when I was around there and when I was growing up, taught me. And this is a quote from a movie, and I hate this quote, but it's a quote from a movie. God bless America and no one else. And I hated that for the longest time. And I've always told myself, how about God, or any type of God, blesses everybody and everybody else? How about that?
Yeah.
Please. But thank you for, yes.
Do you remember Ash's theory of Bob?
No.
Basically, what it boils down to is, doesn't matter what name you call the creator, we're all talking to the same guy. So he chooses to call him Bob.
I actually believe in that theory that over the years, over the millennia, God just changed his name during the times. Like, you can't be called God, you call yourself Moses. Not Moses, you call yourself Zeus. After Zeus, you call it's what I that's a good theory. I call it the Coca-Cola theory, where you have a Coca-Cola from Iraq and then you have a Coca-Cola from France, and they're both the same thing, but they taste completely
different.
Exactly. So that's what it is. Like, all the gods are the same, but they're just completely different off the aspect of where you are, when you are, and how you were raised to be. Because obviously, people still believe Jesus is white to this day. And I'm like, come on, let it go, dude. I'm like, he's my color, and I am not white. But we continue on. Before we continue on, once again, I want to give a shout out to Die the Yoga Witch, and to remind ourselves that showcases are about showcasing this. Shout out to Warren for all those beautiful little videos there. It's nice and calming and everything else. I'm like, okay, I can just put a
Get out of my head. I was about to say exactly the same thing, that my darling husband is the one who made all of these clips.
It is nice. It's nice and calming. Again, you can put that on there. Like what, and tip to Warren, if you can make those animated, that the thing moves side to side, just slightly. Just slightly.
The pictures he's working from, I created all but one of them, and they move on my little stuff.
That's good. I want to get that shit for mine, because all I got, as you saw in mine, all I did was like go to a balcony and then record the outside of the nighttime. But again, I digress. Next question. What is a witch to you? And before we continue, I want to reveal something that most people don't even know. Well, they do if they're deep Alex Coquito fans. My mother is a mother of a santero. My grandmother was a very, 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 very deep santero person, like deep.
Really?
Yes, and it kind of makes sense for me religiously and spiritually, where my grandma would tell me like, oh, I knew the governor back in the 60s, and he was like the grand wizard back of that shit, and he would do that, and then I blessed you, and I try to bless your father when he was sick, and I and my father's mom was also a big ass santero that she went to like all through New York to try to like find remedies and stuff like that. So, and my brother, my second youngest brother, is a like devout santero. He'll all like every 2-3 months when he gets in the mood, he'll put on the beads, he'll put a cigar in front of my mom's house, put $10 there, everything. And I respect all religions. So that's why I understand the question before you answer, what is a witch to you? So continue.
The reason I said really the way I did is my adopted sister has a connection to Santeria, but I cannot remember right now what it was. I want to say it was her first husband, though.
Yes.
So I learned a fair amount about that living with her.
Thanks.
So what is a witch to me? A witch is someone who honors the earth.
Yes.
Someone who acknowledges that the Christian God, while he probably does exist, is not alone. Because you need the duality to create.
Yeah.
A witch is someone who knows how to speak to the universe to get what they want. Because all magic is manipulating energy to get the results you want. It's not like Charmed, but it is in the respect of the do no harm.
Yeah.
With certain flavors of witchcraft. Because harm none is very much a Wiccan thing. I am not a Wiccan.
Yes.
But my personal philosophy is do no harm, but take no shit.
Yeah.
I'm Gen X. Fuck around and find out, you know?
Yeah, I get that. And I understand that completely. And it makes sense that, again, there's varying levels. People don't understand that yeah, there's a good and there's a bad and then there's a gray. But over millennia, that gray has been layered and like so many different levels of that, and so many levels of good, and so many levels of bad, and sub compartments of that, and sub compartments of that. It's really just based on your own morality and ethics and how you were raised to really go on life. Really, honestly, for me, because I've told my son that as long as you know what good and bad is, the fundamentals of good and bad, and know that you can bend but never should break it, you should be fine. You should be fine, obviously. You're never guaranteed life, obviously. So I respect that. And again, Santeria for me is very weird, but I've always respected. And I want to bring this up. One time in Hawaii, I was hanging out with the crew that we knew, and we went to a club. Downstairs it was like there was vampire hunters, there was Liliths, there was werewolves, there was actually not dressed up, there were just people saying that they were this. I'm like, this is some weird ass fucking shit though. But it made sense in 2001.
Sabat in San Diego.
No, that was in Hawaii.
No, I'm talking Sabat is the one that I went to with similar conversations.
Oh, remember when I met you, I met you on a coffee house up some stairs. And it wasn't even a coffee house. It was like a nice place. Everyone was playing D&D and hanging out and everything else. Then you went downstairs and there was a coffee shop where everyone had coffee. And next to that coffee shop, there was an adult theater. Yes. I remember that because it was a specific thing that you can't forget. So
if I remember correctly, that was a friend's apartment that we met at. Yep.
Yes. Yep. That was, again, ladies and gentlemen, trauma and wonder are wondrous things because you remember it. And I have somewhat of an eidetic and a photographic memory, but also my trauma kind of like sometimes like magic marker blacks the lines of stuff that happens like in government. Like, no, we got to cover that shit out because these are things that yeah, I'm like, we're gonna cover that out. So coming back to being a witch, supplemental question. Can you recognize other types of witches when you're around your vicinity?
I can. However,
yes.
Not everyone can. I happen to be one of those people that I can pick up on energy around me.
Yes.
Which tends to be kind of common in those of us who have lived through some of the shit that you and I have.
Yes.
And I call it the way a person tastes because I really have no other way of describing it. But there's just this feel to a person who has either that kind of a gift, i.e. being a psychic or a medium or something, they have the vision into the other side, or occasionally more someone who leans to the more physical aspects of crafting, such as their herbalists or Reiki masters, someone who knows how to manipulate energy. Those I will pick up on really, really quick.
Okay. I get that. I was going to say I understand it, but there's been times where people give off, and I call it vibes, but give off a certain vibe that they're trustworthy and nice. But when you see how they again, a wise man named Pooh Bear, shout out to Pooh Bear, rest in peace. Excuse me, once told me, and I remember all these things. This is weird. This happened when I was between 23 and 25 years of my life, more or less. And there was this wise man that was a vagabond living on the streets with his little dog named Pooh Bear. He loved crack cocaine. Loved that shit. But he would always say some random like quote or something. And I remember this quote. I remember two quotes. Depression is like a disease. It's contagious. If you're depressed, stop being around somebody because you're going to make them depressed. You'll feel better. They won't. Okay? How about that? Second quote. When you feel the first vibe and it feels friendly, it's a lie. Wait for the third vibe and see how they really are. And I've always lived up to that creed. First vibe's like, hey, yeah, I'm great. let's hang out 3 or 4 more times. Let's see how you really are when you think first impressions are everything. Nah, bitch. Third, fourth impressions are what really matters. When you sitting there eating a burger and think no one's watching you, that's the real you. But that's what I mean by that. So
when the mask slips.
yes, you have that instant type of like seeing that shit. I take a longer approach because again, I grew up cynical in my life, and the only people I trust are 5 people in my hands. That's it. In my whole entire life. My girlfriend is number 6, and she gets mad that she's the one in the back. Like, I'm sorry, I just met you for 2 years. Like, you just added on. I love you, but you added on. These 5 people I've known for 20 years. So, either way, I get that.
I actually, similarly, I just almost a year ago, it was around Thanksgiving of last year, walked away from the woman who had been my best friend since we were 18 years old.
Damn.
Because I finally realized how much like my mother she was. And when I finally cut that tie, her daughter's like, "Oh, thank God, I've been waiting for this so I could tell you." And she just, and I had started to see the cracks in the shell.
Yeah.
And so when she word vomited, I finally believed her. So, you know, there are some people out there who come across as sweet, innocent, naive, gentle people.
Mm-hmm.
And they can keep that mask in place for a long time.
Long ass time. Yep. Until that 1 second where it slips out, you're like, where the fuck did that come from? And that's the point where you have the ability to see it before the long con. That's the part that people think I'm very like standoffish and by myself. I grew up the last 15 years of my life, not last 15, let's be more realistic. 10 years ago, I was living in a house with no light, no water, walking a mile a day to wash myself, and then eating just potted meat and bread. I trusted no one. No one gave a crap about me except for the mother of my child and my child. The fact that I'm trying now, because I'm trying to be the mayor of my town in 2032. I have to get off. I will talk about that later. And I have to remind myself, the rapper said this, and it's true. PTSD people probably have the same instinct. And this rapper said this, and I quote, when people reach out to put their hand out, I'm reaching for my pocket, which means I'm reaching for my weapon to automatically defend myself. And I do this all the time. My best friend saw me today under the bridge. I was waiting for someone to pick me up. My best friend sees me. I haven't seen him in a while. So he sees me, and he drives like a motherfucker. So he's on the street, and he drives on the sidewalk. And just drives up like literally he takes the whole sidewalk for himself. And I automatically go for I have a wrench as a keychain. So I automatically go for my wrench, and I kind of set it up like I'm going to stab him. He's like, hey, what's going on? And I told him, motherfucker, don't do that. It took me a couple seconds to remind myself that this is your car. I was literally about to grab a rock, throw, and then run. And why? I don't know why. I automatically see someone running up on me. I'm gonna run. Did you do anything bad? No. But I'm still gonna run. Fuck.
Fight, flight, or freeze.
Yes. My conscience is clear. I have no enemies. I have one enemy, but he's rotting in his own stupidity. And that's on his own accord. No one else is my enemy. But I still have the fear, because of PTSD, we talked about it, of someone, somewhere. And it's, my girlfriend gets freaked out sometimes. Like, why do you always see someone say that? Like, I'm sorry. But I want to divert from that and talk about something that's something rare, which is down in the descriptions below, ladies and gentlemen. Hit those 3 links: Patreon, website, YouTube. I expect her YouTube to go up to at least 8 to 12 people by the end of this damn show. Now, continuing on, let's talk about your business. Speaking of the website, yoga with Dylan.com. I think I got that right.
Dylan, but Close enough.
Close enough. Talk about it. Talk about the origin, how it was made, and how is it going as of this day.
Okay. Well, first I want to address the name because we have established that we've known each other forever and a year, but yet you bobble my name. The reason for that is that's not the name you knew me by.
That wasn't my fault. The name that I say sometimes is the name that they told me numerous times.
Exactly. Like I said, I have changed my name since you knew me.
Sorry, Die.
The only part of it that's still accurate is the Die, because I've always been Die and I always will be.
Yes.
So my business, Yoga with Dai Lin. As I said earlier, I have wanted to be a yoga teacher for 15-ish years. And I finally got my certification, but I am sitting at 80% service connected disabled.
Damn.
Yeah. May of this year, I had 2 discs replaced in my neck that also tied back to my military service. I missed the entire month of October last year because I was recovering from surgery on both feet. And that's just some of the physical.
Yeah.
Doesn't go into the mental. Me working outside the home at this point full time is not an option. My husband, we got COVID the first time before it was a thing. I mean, they didn't even know what COVID was. And then for reasons we couldn't get tested and treated for it. So my darling husband has long COVID. Shit. We needed something. And so as I was in my teacher training, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to work for someone else.
Yes.
I don't want to be a contractor. I don't want to have to, agree to someone else's schedule who says I have to be teaching yoga at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm not a morning person. So Yoga with Dai was born. I say Yoga with Dai because I hate being called by my full name. I do not care what name I changed it to. It would still feel like I'm in trouble.
Of course. I get that.
So Yoga with Dai was born. And my original intention was I was going to be a combination of Jessamine Stanley with the Underbelly and Yoga with Adrienne.
Okay.
They both teach pretty much exclusively online. And Jessamine is the polar opposite of what you would think of when you think of a yoga teacher.
Okay.
She is a big, fat, black, gay, poly bitch. Her description, not mine.
Okay. Yeah, I imagine that. Like when you said like after the third description, I'm like, yeah, that's probably her saying that to everybody. I get it.
Yep. She's awesome. She's amazing. She's one of my heroes. And then Yoga Girl is another online instructor. And then Yoga with Adrienne is world famous on YouTube right now. And her business actually leads into part of mine. Adrienne's dog makes appearances in her videos on a regular.
Yeah, that works.
So we'll get back to that. But so my brain is going, I could teach yoga by making videos in my office. We can do this, or during good weather, grab the kid and he can grab a camera and we can go, throw a mat out in the grass somewhere and do yoga because I live in one of the most gorgeous places in the world. I mean, I have Mount Si outside my living room window. So this is a possibility, right? So I incorporated my own LLC, you get that Yoga with Dai Lin LLC. And as I'm plotting all of this, my soul sister comes to mind because I'm actually going to skip to your final question. My 5-year plan ties into this because it was part of the whole thing from the beginning.
Yes.
I could not imagine going into business without that friend that I walked away from last year.
Okay.
So I'm telling her about it and asking her, you think you can help by doing this or that? And she's like, yeah, sure, great, cool, fun. We can do this. And then I think of another girlfriend of ours, my soul sister. She's a Reiki master
Yeah.
and a shaman, and just her aura, for lack of a better way of explaining it. Hey, kid. Her aura just meshed with what I wanted to do. And I'm like, well, what if Yoga with Dailin offers Reiki too?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we bring Vanna in?
Okay.
That was the beginning of the end of my friendship.
Damn.
So we incorporated Vanna, and so we start tossing around that. And then I knew from the beginning I was going to have a podcast, or I was going to have a blog and the website and that.
Oh, hello, Gossip Deaf Hella. First timer. Thank you. Hello.
She's
Leave
one
that
of
like.
mine.
Thank you, man. Please leave a like, leave a comment. Any questions you want to leave down below? We're getting to the point that you can leave questions down below. Anything you want, as long as they're respectable and acceptable. All right. I have the power to bind you. Now continue.
Embarrass me and I'll beat you. But so when my friend decided she wasn't going to do any of the things she had agreed to, her daughter stepped up. So that one has become, my daughter. If you know me online, you see me refer to my non-biological daughters.
Yes.
That is her and her sister. So
Okay.
she stepped up and started helping. And so she was taking over the blog. And then I had the social media stuff. And so I had a couple of friends who were like, hey, we spend a lot of time on social media. We'll help. So I got my social media goddesses. And then this one, actually, the one who just commented, she was my key holder working at Torrid.
Nice.
And she is currently in college for digital marketing. And when Yoga with Dai was about to launch, she's like, I need a senior project business. Can I use your business? And I'm like, I get free marketing out of it and we get to hang out. Hell yeah. So I now have a marketing director, and that was basically the birth of Yoga with Dai. We are literally a family business because there's only one person on my staff that I do not call family.
Yeah.
And half of us are, well, I would say the girls are blood related, but they're not. However, they've grown up with my kids being cousin sibling things.
Yeah.
They're my kids.
They're like, no, I get it. They're neighbor cousins. That's what they call them over here too. Like they're cousins because they grew up here with the kids and everything else. So their family by adjacent property value and something like that. I get that. I get that completely. Everyone watching, make sure you hit those likes. There's a nice little emoji button and you can press of hearts and everything else. Leave it out there and let us grow more. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment to her channel. The website, the Patreon, and the YouTube are down in the description below. After this, we'll make some videos later. Before we get to the last question, second to last question, which is going to be the future 5-year plan of the Yoga Witch. Let's get one more showcase out there before we continue. Putting that out there for everyone else. And a tip for everyone watching, and for Warren as well. Nice little video tip I learned from doing this from trial and error. if you record things on one computer or record things on a camera or record things on a phone, right? Always, if you're going to do something or record something, vertical, horizontal, always 2 takes. Always.
Yes.
Okay?
Hello.
We'll talk about that offline. Hello, doggy.
This is Tookers.
Welcome.
He has fans.
Ooh, good for again. You could. I would set up an Instagram account for him. People love that.
It's for kids or critters.dtyw on Instagram.
Critters.dtyw. Okay.
Die the Yoga Witch. And then their Facebook is YWD''S critters.
Thank you. Not there. Thank you for that. It's
Yes.
5 in the class. Thank you very much, my
You're
boy.
welcome.
Now, time for the second to last question. Actually, my apologies.
There you go, baby.
Which is the 5-year plan?
Yes.
For
We have a 5-year plan.
Yes. Now, to add on to this question, because again, I can tell you the question, you're like, oh, I have ideas. Here's the point of on my show. Now, there's been rumors, but substantial rumors that Twitch is going to go dead. YouTube is becoming more censored around the fact that you can't say suicide, you can't say the R word, you can't say any of those words. You have to find different ways. And on top of that, AI is becoming a problem for media shows, because YouTube right now, once you upload a video on YouTube or a short, you have to automatically say that if it's altered content or not. Automatically. If you don't, then YouTube's gonna come back and say, "Hey, we're gonna erase this video because you never answered that." That's happened to me. So how would you deal with a growing? Because again, you guys are gonna grow as long as you have. And I'm telling this for everybody. If you want to grow it as a business or as a brand and everything else, you need the 5 top things to promote: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Telegram. Now, as a sixth option, Threads. Now, if your content is hardcore, where you want to push the boundaries, you take away Facebook, you take away YouTube. Sorry for the middle finger. But then you go to Kick, and then you go to Rumble. That's, which I'm telling you now, every video, everything that you've ever done, put that shit on Kick, put that shit on Rumble. I'm projecting that that's going to be the main thing to go to in the next 5 years. Twitch is dying. Like I have friends in the business, they're like, Twitch is going to die in a year. They're losing sponsors. Kick and Rumble are letting you do like 90% of crazy shit. So that's where everyone's going, because Twitch was the place to see crazy shit. It's not anymore. It's not. So now people are going to Kick and Rumble, and so putting that out there. So with that 5-year plan, how would you deal with this?
Literally, the only one you mentioned that I do not have is Telegram. And I know that's the tell me you're American without telling me you're American thing.
You can have a Telegram here in Puerto Rico, because I have a Puerto Rican number and I use Telegram. The point I tell people to use Telegram is that that's the only thing I can think of as a storage device for your videos that you control 100%. Because you are the ones that put the restrictions. You are the ones that put the privates. No one else can do that except for you. And I have a Telegram I have actually a Telegram channel where every video of Puerto Rico, the art, the crime, and everything else, after I post it on all my social media channels, it's archived in Telegram. In case YouTube wants to erase my shit again, all I got to do is just take all that shit and do it all over again. Also, ladies and gentlemen, have at least YouTube standards 3 YouTubes. 3. Your main, your secondary, and your, in case shit fails, because guess what? My main died. I have my secondary, and all my clips are going to my in case shit fails. And you know what's weird? My shit grows by itself. I don't even touch that channel, and it just grows. It like when I started doing that, it went up to 50 to 75. People randomly like my shit. But let's go on your 5-year plan. It's not about me. Let's go.
So, 5-year plan. I am currently strictly online.
Mm.
I want to start teaching in person eventually.
Yes.
I have 2 goals for my 5-year plan.
Yes.
A 501c3 that I will go into detail about, and I want to have a bed and breakfast.
Okay.
The yoga ties in. It dawned on me because God, I don't even remember what Yoganibus became an idea, but it was at very early.
Yeah.
I want to do a yoga retreat that the entire weekend is cannabis infused. The food, the drink, it's allowed on the property, everything. I have a chef and a not technically a chef, but a damn good cook who are both very experienced at cooking infused foods. One of them, she specializes in it.
Oof.
And she makes drinks, and this woman can make fucking cotton candy cannabis infused.
No, I'm feeling this. It's just that I'm gonna let you finish because
okay.
Go on.
So a traditional retreat property would not allow this, even if it's in a legal state, because of the insurance requirements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, for me to do this as easily as I want to, I need a B&B. I need to own the property.
Yeah.
Or at least be on very good terms with the person who owns the property. Okay. So, I have a dream for what I want to build it out to be. And then my husband, because of the property we were considering originally, he's the one that wants the B&B because this property he knows would make an amazing wedding venue. So we could offer weddings because I can officiate weddings.
Yeah.
We could offer weddings. We can do yoga retreats. We can do all sorts of shit like that and keep it all in one place.
Okay.
And then the 501c3, it's going to be named Pink Lotus. Okay. And I am going to offer, obviously, yoga, but the biggest part of I need a physical property because it's going to be a domestic violence homeless shelter. Yeah. It's going to be there for kids whose parents kick them out because they fall under the rainbow umbrella. Yeah. I want to serve the LGBTQ, the domestic violence survivors, the sexual violence thrivers, the trauma survivors, all of that, the BIPOC, because I have this really weird tie to the Native American community for not, to my knowledge, having a drop of red blood. Yeah. Those are my people. I want to give back to them. And in giving back to them, I want to give them shelter. I want to give them adulting classes. I want to give them therapy. I have a drug and alcohol counselor who is already on board offering her services.
Nice.
Yes. And this is my, honestly, Pink Lotus is what I want, and Yoga with Dailin is how I'm going to get it. Okay. If that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. The ironic thing, we have two totally different Instagram feeds. I follow someone for the last 3 years now. You can look her up. It's actually just literally, you can look up Instagram called Comfy P. That's it. Just exactly. Put that together. Comfy P. She has a retreat seminar called PUSSY in the Sun, where we talk about women empowerment, trauma that happened to women, and she loves microdosing. So she uses, instead of cannabis, she uses, magic mushrooms. So when you're talking all this, when you're talking about all these things, I'm like, it's the exact same thing, except for you're making more of a hub. Like you're making a boys and girls club of the world, but for different subjects that need to be talked about. Domestic violence, homeless shelters, and everything else. For her, it's more of like a woman empowerment place where the majority of the time you're going to be naked and microdose on mushrooms, but you're going to be empowered and understand your body and your soul. So that's what I mean. Check her out, everyone. Comfy P. I've been blocked on Instagram a couple times because her shit's racy, but her message on what you, as the same as you, really want to help people. It's not about getting drugged up. No, it's about helping people and understanding the gates of emotional trauma that you have to open in order for you to grow. You have to grow. Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, I was manic depressive. I've been a sociopath in certain points of my life. I have PTSD, I have anxiety, I have there's a word for that, night terrors. I wake up like thinking that I'm back in like just crazy shit. But by understanding as if you check my channel, I had a spiritual shaman open me up and really talk about my feelings, put the freaking powders in my nose and everything, and did all that shit. It was like 2 hours. Yep. Cried like a baby, but it was a great cry. It was a cathartic cry that I needed to do. So, and I thank you for talking about these things. Again, I talk about this with my girlfriend, but you can't FaceTime feelings. You can't. As much, I'm gonna put that on a shirt. You can't FaceTime feelings. I like that. I actually like that. Please give us your final thoughts on your just give us your final thoughts on everything on your life and what you want to do. There you go. It's a heavy topic.
Oh,
no doubt.
I want to spread love, joy, kindness, and heal the world.
Okay.
That is my ultimate goal.
Yeah.
I want to be the best woman, mother, wife, friend, sister, cousin, person that I can be.
Yeah.
I am here for a fucking reason because I straight up have lost count of the number of times I have tried to remove myself from the situation.
Mm-hmm.
More than one of those should have been successful.
Yeah. But you're here for a reason. So
yes.
That's the reason.
Exactly. That's kind of my thoughts. If I can't get myself out of here, then I might as well do something useful with my time here.
Yeah. I kind of feel like people like you and me and people that grew up in Gen X, like we want to have a purpose. We've seen so many movies where people had a purpose. They died like horrible deaths. So they died as warriors, but in the end result, they died with a purpose. They died doing something. What I want to do in my life, for me, example, I want to make sure my son's okay and understand the understanding of life. So when I go, he knows the good and bad. And at this point, I kind of overachieved that shit because he already knows that by 15. And what I want people in my channel, I kind of was like that in the beginning too. I want to help people and shit. I'm like, nah. For me, I just want to say the truth. There's no reporters out there that just say, hey, this is the crime that happened. These are the things that happened. Boom, that's it. They always want to put their little spin on it. No, I want to be the mayor of my town because I want to show anyone who's going to be opposed to me. And like, I have about 8 years of everything I've said, everything I've done, everything here. And it's all transparent and it's fucking robot style talking. Just bop, 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 bop. So if you want to get me on that, you're not going to win. What you should get me on is my policies, my merits, and what I'm going to do as the mayor of my town in 2032. I literally, before we even went live, ladies and gentlemen, I was on my Patreon ranting about the mayor of my town. Ranting for 30 minutes. My girlfriend's like, dude, you ranted the fuck out of that. I'm like, damn fucking right I did. But that's passion. That is passion. That is love. That is the point of loving yourself and finding a choice. Go on. There we go. Just give me the facts. Exactly. And sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, the facts of here are really crazy. You know about Lorena, like Lorena Bobbitt. You've heard of that. You've heard that name. That's happened over here in Puerto Rico.
Totally not
The
surprised.
funniest thing that ever happened here, next to my town, and I'm gonna say this before we continue, before we finish. Man is scared of a woman, which is his wife. Man tells wife, I don't want to be around you anymore. You're very violent. I'm going to put a protection order against you. Man and woman go to court. He wins. Woman's like, F that. Waits till he goes to the parking lot and runs him over after the fact and gives her the middle finger and drives away. They catch her a day later. That's actually happened in my town. Like, fuck you.
People are fucking crazy.
Exactly. Oh, ¿qué pasó, Joe BNCO? I appreciate you. We're about to finish here. Final thoughts. Like, you did talk about being on your show, so I would love to be on your show. And we can delve into the Navy stuff because I need someone that was actually there to actually talk about the stories of what I remember, because you were there for a good 35% of my life in California at that portion with the other ginger dude and Chewbacca and Donald and everything else. He doesn't like to be called Chewbacca. He should shave his fucking body. He's called Chewbacca for a reason. You know how it is.
I am convinced, and this is telling stories about my child, and
yes,
but the middle one had an obsession with all things Chewy for years after we moved up here.
Yeah.
They don't remember him, but they were obsessed with Chewy. And then he and Ash connected on Facebook, and I just couldn't stop giggling about it. But yeah, of the entire group of you, and there were what, 12 of you that would regularly crash at my place?
Between 4 to 8. You had the short one, you had the ginger, you had Donald, you had Donald's friend, you had Donald's friend's friend, you had Donald's friend's friend. You had me.
Yep.
Yeah. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this was not a mansion. This was like a very two-story house. Yeah. Small.
Hey, look who popped up in the comments.
Oh, we got a little
Speaking
comment.
of.
Look at that. We got Forrest at least. Thank you, Forrest Southern. I haven't heard that name in a long ass time. I thought you were talking about Disney for a minute. No, Joseph. This, ladies and gentlemen, is my friend from 20 years ago, back in the Navy, in my days where we don't talk about that on my end, the Navy. But we hopefully in the future are going to have a conversation about my life. But again, and I tell people here, she has full authority to ask me any questions. Go hard. I have talked about my spirituality. I have talked about my life. I have talked about trans representation here in Puerto Rico, where it should be way more than it is. And ladies and gentlemen, she might not even know the tip of the shit that I live in this fucking crazy ass world. Like, this is crazy. In Puerto Rico, ladies and gentlemen, not in the world. Puerto Rico, was it the Hickey Mouse Club Mouse? Blah, blah, blah. Kiss my ass, Joe. I love you. Mickey. Yeah, you had to correct yourself, you dumbass. I love you. Stop drinking.
Considering there were toddlers in the house, it was probably a combination of both, but we won't go there.
We all go there. All right. Let's get out of here for the last night. Thank you, Di, the Yoga Witch. Shout out to Warren to give it everything like that. I'll give you some feedback later on. Stay healthy. Stay happy. This was Coquito Underground, patreon.com/AskCoquito. I don't really care about that, but I care about giving the truth, having fun, and reminding myself that a 24-year-old woman loves a 42-year-old man. Love you, girlfriend. See you in 1 month. We'll see you in 1 month.
In the streets of Puerto Rico, candle the weight, darkness fell upon us. We're living in this state, struggle, poverty. It's the price that we pay, but we rise above it all. We won't be swept away. In the land of enchantment, where the shadows creep, corruption's running deep. Like a secret key, but we won't be silenced. Our voices
same shit on from yesterday. Yeah. Only niggas that know about this is niggas that grind. Know what I'm talking about?